Hello, fellow Panthers. My name is Lacey Renae Corbett, and this is my colleague, Erik Morrison. We are your mental health therapists here at South Medford High School. A recent student survey revealed that many of you would like to know more about how to address anxiety. So today, we will be reviewing what anxiety is and 4 coping strategies to address it. First, what is anxiety? Well, anxiety is essentially excessive worry that's often future-oriented. We will be watching 2 videos to learn more. The first describes symptoms of anxiety, and the second highlights the impact of anxiety from a youth perspective.
You know what anxiety feels like. We all do. Everyone experiences anxiety in some way or another. It's something that connects all of us together. Why we feel anxiety and what it really is, that may surprise you. Without anxiety, we'd all be in serious trouble. As soon as your brain senses you're in danger, a little piece of it, called the amygdala, kicks in. It gets your body ready to react. That could mean fight, run away, or shut down. It's called the fight, flight, or freeze response. This reaction goes back millions of years to our distant animal ancestors. Animals whose amygdalae were more sensitive to danger were more likely to stay alive and off the menu. Over millions of generations, this developed into the system we all know as anxiety. So you see, anxiety itself is not all bad. But when there's no immediate life or death threat, and your amygdala keeps telling your body that you're in danger, that's when anxiety becomes a problem. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference between getting eaten and public speaking or failing a test. Human society has only existed for a relatively short time. It's messy and complicated and confusing, and our amygdalae just haven't had time to catch up. So sometimes, when we're in uncomfortable situations, our brains misread the risk and overreact. Our hearts beat faster and we breathe heavily, pulling more oxygen into our bodies. The muscles in our arms and legs tense up and fill with blood. Our skin perspires to cool us down. This would all be great if we needed to fight or run, but instead, we just feel tense and sweaty. Sometimes our minds go blank and we feel like we can't move or talk. That would be great if we needed to hide. Instead, we just feel stuck. When things trigger our anxiety, sometimes we try to avoid them, like our ancestors avoiding a predator. But that can cause problems when those triggers are important parts of life, like going to school or meeting new people, things that won't just give up and go away. So how does knowing all this help? Well, it starts with remembering what's really going on. There's nothing physically wrong with you. It's just your amygdala trying to tell you it thinks you're in danger, even if it gets confused about how much danger you're really in. Understanding why we feel anxiety is an important step in learning to manage it.
Now that we watched this first video, I want to allow time to reflect on the following question. Did you learn something new about anxiety? If so, what did you learn? After you're done reflecting, feel free to move on to the second video.
Depression, and anxiety, and also just, feeling like I'm not good enough, feeling like people aren't going to accept me for, what I am.
Sadness, stress, depression, anger.
Being anxious, anxiety, fear, anger, and frustration.
Anxiety and embarrassment are the top of the list of very intense emotions that I deal with.
Well, I had anger and heartbreak were the main ones.
Being insecure about myself, like the way I look and like my body size.
Like I usually just like keep to myself, kind of. I'm not really like joking around or anything like that.
I feel sick to my stomach and as if nothing can go right.
I feel like just like alone, and I feel like nobody can understand what I'm going through.
It just kind of feels like I'm like this twig that's a walking twig that just goes anywhere and everywhere.
It's just like emptiness, like a gap, like kind of just like is gone away from my body or so.
You just want to scream, and it's like your life is all one big puzzle.
I get shaky and my stomach gets sick and my mind is jumping to the worst case scenarios and it's all over the place, jumping to conclusions.
My mind kind of like clamps together in a way, and I can't like pick out each and every thought that I can because it just swirls around and I can't like grab it and try to work through it.
My heart is racing. I can't speak really clearly. I'm like kind of sweaty and just kind of not looking too great.
I like just get really paranoid and don't know what to do.
Sometimes it's like I get like this knot in my throat because I know that what I'm feeling, I can't express it or you can't say it.
I want to punch everything around me. Like I want to punch a wall, a bed, and
When I take pictures of myself, I kind of use a black and white filter to tell me that everything will look the same and nothing will change.
Take some deep breaths and listen to music, and talking to someone about it usually helps.
I listen to music, often music that either has to do with the things that I'm feeling or music that will make me feel the opposite of what I'm feeling. And I tell myself that whatever I'm feeling or going through, it's all going to get better and that it will end eventually.
I try to just think positive, have positive thoughts, and say I can get through it. Or I just try to just breathe and just relax.
I usually like write a poem, or like I'll try to figure out some kind of jazz chords to play on my piano to like mellow my mood a little bit. So
I try to remind myself that I'm not the only one who feels this way. I try to cool myself down to make everything go away.
We will now cover 4 coping strategies. The first 3 are focused on your thoughts, while the last one focuses on how to use a mindfulness strategy called belly breathing to reduce anxiety symptoms. I will start off with 3 strategies of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. Cognitive behavioral therapy is the most widely researched of all the counseling approaches, so you can be assured that these techniques will be effective in reducing your anxiety when used properly. Cognitive behavioral therapy operates on the premise that our thoughts cause our feelings and that those feelings in turn cause us to behave in certain ways. If we want to change how we feel and ultimately how we act, we must first change the way we think. This brings me to the first coping strategy, cognitive restructuring. This is a fancy clinical way of saying change the content of your thoughts. For example, if you take a test and fail it, you might think, I'm going to fail the class. This thought will likely cause you to feel anxious. To restructure the thought, you might instead say to yourself, my grade is not determined by one test alone. The second strategy I would like to discuss is reframing. In plain English, reframing means to change how you view a person or situation. Let's say you are looking at a picture or painting in an old chipped frame. While the picture may actually not look too bad itself, the frame can make you think it looks worse than it really does. If we replace the old chipped frame with a new nicely finished one, the picture suddenly looks a lot nicer. The same applies to life situations and circumstances. Let's apply this strategy to the example of failing the test. The thought of, I'm going to fail the class because I failed the test, is likely to make you feel anxious. If, on the other hand, you instead think to yourself, just because I failed this test doesn't mean I can't still do well in the class, you have reframed the situation and will likely feel much less anxious. The third and final strategy I would like to talk to you about is challenging irrational or maladaptive beliefs. I know it probably sounds intimidating and complicated, but really this technique simply involves asking yourself the question, what is the evidence for these anxiety-provoking thoughts or beliefs? Again, using the example of failing the test, you might ask yourself something like, what kind of grades have I gotten on my other tests and assignments? Unless you have failed pretty much every other assignment and test in the class, by asking yourself this question, you have just established that failing the one test in question is not going to cause you to fail the class. What's great about these 3 coping strategies is that they are simple, effective, and can be used on their own or in combination with one another. With practice and patience, you can control anxiety instead of it controlling you.
I'm now going to cover belly breathing, but first, what is mindfulness? The term is often associated with spirituality or a certain religion like Buddhism, or seen as a mainstream buzzword you can find on social media influencers' pages. But when you set all of that aside, it's important to note that mindfulness is simply the mental state that is focused on your awareness of the present moment while acknowledging your feelings, your thoughts, and your body sensations. So simple, right? You're just focusing on what is happening right now. So mindfulness turns out to be a very practical tool that does not require you to identify with any kind of spirituality. How can we use mindfulness to reduce anxiety symptoms? Well, one way is to focus on your breathing. When we feel anxious or worried, guess what happens? We chest breathe, right? So when we feel anxious, our heart rate goes up and we start to breathe from our chest. Has anyone ever experienced this? Yeah, so in this moment, it feels like you don't have enough oxygen, and it's the type of breathing that can actually lead to a person having a panic attack. One of the key ways that you can reduce your heart rate is to breathe from the belly, which is called diaphragmatic breathing. If you're a choir singer or consider yourself a shower singer, you know who you are. This may be familiar to you. So to engage the belly in breathing, all you have to do is take a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4, and when you breathe in, make sure to inflate the belly and make it big. I know this part can feel a little uncomfortable, but trust me, it's the most important part of the process. Then you want to breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can breathe like you're breathing into a paper bag. Steady breathing decreases your heart rate and regulates your nervous system, producing a calm and relaxed feeling throughout your whole body. This helps to reduce stress and elevates your mood. Thank you.
So there you have it. You've learned 4 new coping strategies to help you combat anxiety. The mindfulness technique of belly breathing, and 3 cognitive behavioral techniques: cognitive restructuring, reframing, and challenging anxiety-provoking thoughts. If you'd like more information about anxiety, or you're struggling with anxiety and need support, feel free to contact one of us using the information provided at the end of this video.